What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. Great night of boxing last night, featuring two of the biggest names in the sport of boxing, Gervonta Tank Davis and Vasily Lomachenko, in separate bouts, on separate networks, on separate platforms. Gervonta fought on Showtime pay-per-view, and Vasily Lomachenko fought on ESPN Plus. Now I wasn't able to watch the Lomachenko fight with Nakatani. I'm gonna watch that fight a little later on today, but I heard he put on a magnificent performance, put on a virtuoso performance. Looked like the Loma of old, and got a lot of people thinking that the rematch between him and Teofimo Lopez is now a 50-50 fight based on his performance with Nakatani. Now people need a quick cross matching up, comparing what Teofimo Lopez did to Nakatani and compare that to what Lomo did with Nakatani. It's an old saying in boxing, styles make fights. Look at how George Foreman ran through Joe Frazier, not once, but twice, and look how he struggled and got taken to school by Muhammad Ali. So you can't look at that. And look how Muhammad Ali fought Joe Frazier 3 times. And he told you Joe Frazier was probably his toughest matchup of his career. Gave him problems because he had that left hook, which he was susceptible to. So y'all need to quit comparing guys. You know, AJ got caught up in that in the Andy Ruiz fight. That's what he said. The reason why he lost, he was trying to put on a devastating performance in comparison to what Deontay Wilder did with Dominic Breazeale. He got outside his comfort zone, and basically instead of letting the knockout come to him, he's tried to go hunting for the knockout. Ended up getting caught with a shot that he never recovered from by Andy Ruiz, and he ultimately lost his belts, that being a WBO, WBA, and IBF. Now let's get to the fight last night between Davis and Barrios. Skills pay the bills. That's the old saying in boxing, right? Floyd Mayweather made that saying very famous. Skills pay the bills. That's exactly what happened, man. You had a guy that was naturally bigger, man. He probably had a 15, 20-pound weight advantage on fight night over Davis. Davis had the hunger, man. He had that dog in him, man. That guy is a killer, man. He's a seek and destroy type of guy. He made the necessary adjustments. He took the jab away from Mario Barrios. He was able to slip the jab, and he started trying to set that uppercut up. Even though he wasn't landing the uppercut, he must have felt the force of the wind, because he just missed Barrios, man. I think it was the 5th or 6th round. He threw that uppercut, man. If he would have caught him right there, I turned to my homeboy. He's watching the sports boxing. If he'd have caught him with that shot, he'd have slept him right there. But I think Barrios, man, once he threw that, started throwing that uppercut with mean intentions, Mario Barrios put that jab, he put that back on layaway. He put that back in the toolbox. He stopped using that tool. That was crazy right there. He didn't want to use that jab after he was kind of leaving himself open for that uppercut. And then he started getting caught with the check left hook too. He was catching with the little chest hook to the body. He was slipping and dipping. That's exactly what Tank Davis was doing. He was slipping those punches, dipping and getting inside. He was coming over the top. He was doing a lot. He was doing a good job of basically throwing. You know, at first he was throwing like 1 punches at a time, but I think he was kind of worried of the power and the size of Mario Barrios. I think the people on Showtime commentated on there and said, hey man, he's losing these rounds, man. He's only throwing 1 punch at a time. I think he was trying to gauge the power. And then when he got touched with a couple of shots by Mario Barrios, he said, oh, I can take this shot. This dude ain't got no crazy power, nothing like that. So let me go and start being a little bit more aggressive. And that's exactly what he did, man. He almost was pulling like a Lomachenko in the first 4 rounds. He wasn't throwing hardly no punches. Lomachenko did that in the Teofimo Lopez fight. He wasn't throwing no punches, but now stuff coming out saying that Lomachenko had a injured shoulder going into that fight, and he was right there in position to throw the punch, but he just couldn't do it. And he didn't feel comfortable to the second half of the fight to let his hands go. But the point I'm trying to make with Davis is that he was doing similar things, but I think he was more worried about the power of Barrios. But he was able to feel a couple of shots, and he felt that he could handle his power. Once he did that, he was able to really take over the fight, man. I thought he took over the fight basically after probably the round 4. You know, I don't know what kind of scorecard Steve Farhood had. He had a crazy scorecard. I think he had Barrios up like 75, 79, 75 at one point. So he basically had him up, what, 5 rounds to 4 at one one point or whatever it was. Yeah, it's 5 rounds of, it's crazy. What was it, 79, 74 or something like that? He had him up 6 rounds to 1. I mean 5 rounds to 1, my bad. 79, 75 at one point. And I had it 3-3. And I had Davis up 6 rounds to 4 when the knockout came. Now I had a couple of close rounds and stuff like that, but the more accurate punches were landed by were landed by Gervonta Tank Davis. He landed the more accurate punches. He started using his jab. He took the jab away from Mario Barrios, and he started using his jab, and he started finding his range, man. And he basically, a lot of times at the beginning of a lot of those rounds, he would lay on the ropes. I think he was trying to set a trap for Barrios. He was trying to get Barrios to basically shoot his wad in the first half of that round, and then he would try to come on in the middle part of that round. I think he sensed that Barrios could not fight hard for a whole round. He could fight in spurts, basically. And I think Gervonta Tank Davis was trying to set him up to that, but Mario Barrios didn't even take advantage when he did have him on the ropes. He was very leery of the power of Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Tank Davis just was a guy that had more tools in the toolbox. He started landing the 2-punch combinations. You know, the 2-piece without the biscuit, he was landing that time and time again in the second half of that fight. And that was the difference, man. That and the body work that he was doing, man. And that first knockdown was beautiful. He came over the top of Mario Barrios' left hand and just timed. It wasn't no hard punch. It wasn't no punch thrown with mean intention. It was just the timing and the accuracy of it. Ended up dropping Mario Barrios. He ended up dropping Mario Barrios 3 times and got the TKO win in the 11th round in a spectacular performance, man. I was at this sports bar called Ojos Locos, and everybody, man, after that fight was clapping and cheering and everything like that, man. He's going to have a big fan base, man, in the Latino community, man. I was at a Spanish sports bar, and all those people were standing up and cheering for him. Yeah, guys that were cheering for Barrios, and you had people that was out there cheering for Tank Davis. So Mayweather and Ellerby, they're doing a good job of getting his name out there to the people that's going to spend money on boxing, the people that's been loyal to boxing. That's the Latino community, man. That's why they fighting these Latino fighters. A lot of people are like, man, why is he fighting Barrios? Why don't he fight Gary Russell Jr.? Why don't he fight, Tevin Farmer? People like that. And what they looking at is, hey, I couldn't, man, I'm just going to be real about it. That fight, Davis and Barrios, it wasn't shown at a lot of sports bars. I had to call around for that, man. Most of the quote-unquote mainstream sports bars, they didn't have that fight. I had to go to a Spanish sports bar to watch that fight. Now, in about 4 weeks, when Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fight, that fight going to be on every sports bar. You can go to any sports bar. It's going to be there. But Davis-Barrios fight was at, most of the sports bars didn't have that. Most of the sports bars were waiting on the McGregor-Poirier 3 fight that's going to take place in 2 weeks. So they didn't want to spend money on 2 pay-per-view fights in a 2-week span. So they obviously chose the McGregor fight. So a lot of these sports bars like, nah, we ain't got that fight. We got McGregor in 2 weeks. So it is what it is. But that's the part of the blueprint. That's part of the roadmap that Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Leonard Ellerby are setting out for Gervonta Tank Davis. They want to capture the imagination and the support of the Latino community. They already figured that they got the black community already going to support Gervonta Tank Davis, just like they supported Floyd Mayweather Jr. But quiet as kept, Floyd Mayweather Jr. had a lot of Latino fans. He had a lot of Latino haters, but they all spent their money to see Floyd Mayweather fight, hoping that he win or hoping that he'll lose. And they're trying to really do the same thing with Gervonta Tank Davis. But Gervonta Tank Davis has more of a crowd-pleasing style than Mayweather. Mayweather was more of a defensive fighter, especially after he had those hand issues. Gervonta Tank Davis is much more exciting. He's got a little bit of Floyd Mayweather and a little bit of Mike Tyson all rolled up in one. And that's why it makes him box office. That makes him one of the most exciting fighters in boxing. That's why Canelo Alvarez said that Gervonta Tank Davis is one of his favorite fighters. So his next fight is definitely going to be on pay-per-view. Floyd Mayweather Jr. said at the post-fight press conference that they're going to keep everything in-house. He said it don't make no sense for them to make another company great. So with that being said, they're not looking to fight any fighters up under Top Rank or any fighters up under the Zone or Matchroom Boxing or any fighters up under Golden Boy. So Ryan Garcia, that's not happening. That's a shame. Teofimo Lopez, that's not happening. Devin Hayden, that's not happening. So Oscar Valdez, that's not happening. Jamel Herring, that's not happening. So some of the guys that you probably gonna look at him to fight is gonna be guys like, maybe Gary Russell Jr. is a guy that they're gonna be looking to fight. If he gets by Ray Vargas or whoever wins that fight, maybe they be looking to set that fight up with Gervonta Tank Davis. Maybe Regis Prograis. He's a guy that's been working with Al Heyman. He's a free agent right now. He's trying to look to set up a fight with Mikey Garcia. Will that fight come to fruition? It remains to be seen. I've been hearing talk about Mikey Garcia possibly fighting Danny Garcia. So we will see what happens on that front. But that's another name that could be mentioned. The guy that fight on the undercard of the pay-per-view fight, the opening fight on the pay-per-view card. What's that guy named? Bata Akabdamav. I'm butchering his name. He fought Mario Barrios in his last fight. A lot of people thought he won that fight. Mario Barrios was able to win a decision. I think he got a knockdown early in that fight. And that was the difference in the fight. But a lot of people still thought Amadov, who landed more punches in that fight, should have won that fight. That could be a possible opponent, but he doesn't have the fan base to really bring anything to the table. But he could be on the list because he fights under PBC and Al Heyman. Another guy they could be looking at is Rolly Romero, a.k.a. Rolly. I don't know if he's with Mayweather promotion, but he definitely fights under the PBC banner, so they could make that fight happen. Rolly, he's real slow, though. He's slow as a broke-leg turtle, man. He would get ate up by Gervonta Davis, but he is undefeated. He's a guy that's been calling out a lot of people. He's been calling out Teofimo Lopez. He's been calling out Ryan Garcia. Maybe they can make that fight happen. That's an in-house fight. So those are some of the names that could be on the horizon for Gervonta Tank Davis. We will see what happens. We will see what transpires. But that's my quick thoughts. That's my quick synopsis on the fight. Vintage performance by Gervonta Tank Davis. He is a pay-per-view star. He is, in my opinion, top 5 cash cow boxing after this performance, behind Canelo Alvarez, the Anthony Joshua's of the world, the Earl Spencers of the world. He's right there in that top 5. Let me know your thoughts about Gervonta Tank Davis winning this matchup with Mario Barrios. And let me know your thoughts about who you would like to see him fight. Remember, you don't mention no Top Rank, The Zone, Matchroom Boxing, or Golden Boy, because Floyd Mayweather Jr. made it abundantly clear that they're not going to be fighting anybody outside of the PBC Al Heyman banner. They keeping everything in-house. He says it don't make no sense to make another company great. You ain't finna eat off our table. We got a money maker here in Gervonta Tank Davis, and we're going to keep everything in-house. That's what Floyd Mayweather Jr. said in the post-fight press conference. Let me know your thoughts, and hit the like button if you like the content of this video, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend, and I holla.